Hi to all again, I'm Alexandros Kostopoulos, Business Development Manager in CSR Hellas, in another quick talk with expert professors of the CSR School 2021, this time with Dr. Alexandros Antonaras, Associate Professor of Management and Vice President of Student Services at the University of Nicosia in Cyprus. This time, we will try to deep dive into one letter of the SDG approach, and more specifically in G, which is governance, that will be fully analyzed under sustainability angle on Thursday, 17th of June, 2021. Great pleasure to be with you, Alexandre.
My pleasure, Alexandros, to be with you today.
So my first question is that following to the European Green Deal, the Commission has announced a Sustainable Corporate Governance Initiative for 2021. We all know that. The Commission has introduced renewed legislation on both previously called non-financial reporting NFRD, from now on CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, as well as regulation on sustainable corporate governance. To that end, do you believe that directors have to become an active part on the solutions toward greener and fairer business models?
Alexander, you are right that there are several directives deriving from the European Green Deal, but also from before, that require businesses to change the way that they do business. But obviously, it is not the only reason for this need. The new regulatory framework derived from the deal, from the Green Deal, requires companies to change. But the real driving force behind this need to be found or need to be searched also at the business stakeholders, because the expectations of the various business stakeholders have already changed over the last few years. And what do I mean by that? Different stakeholders have different objectives, and they have different needs also. Stakeholders like investors, they have changed over the last few years, their needs and their expectations. They now want to have access to consistent, comparable, reliable ESG information. And they also want to use this information to monitor the performance of the businesses in which they invest. Customers have also changed. The product expectations are changing as millennials and Generation Z enter into and they mature within the workforce, and they develop more disposable income for them. So also, according to a recent survey, 42% of millennials, they say that they have begun a business relationship, or they deepened a business relationship because they perceive the company's product or a company's service to have a positive impact on society or the environment. Employees also seek to work at companies that they reflect their expectations with regards to purpose or the culture they want to have. So there is no other options for directors, for boards of directors, but to ensure that their companies align with these new stakeholder expectations. And Alexandre, I think that companies that cannot do this won't be sustainable. And again, as Dr. Deming said decades ago, survival is not compulsory.
Indeed, fully agree. But how you can describe the new role of directors in succeeding both short-term financial performance together with the long-term interest of the company?
Yeah, indeed, directors traditionally have been trying for achieving short-term financial results, profitability. And there's no doubt that this needs to change. They also need to ensure that company achieve results in many other areas, not only financial results. They need to ensure that the company achieves environmental results, social results. They need to realize that stakeholders, the perceptions of stakeholders need to be measured. And they are also very important in managing the performance of the business. So how do we measure employee perception results, or customer perception results, or society, partners and suppliers, the governing stakeholders? So companies that systematically achieve good results in relation to their stakeholders, but also the business and operation results, these companies will be sustainable. So these results will ensure the sustainability of the business, and they will maintain what is known as the social license to operate. How can we achieve this? I mean, directors, they need to start defining an inspiring purpose. Previously, they were focusing only on economic results. Now they need to define the overall purpose that will aspire everyone. They need to ensure that they will create a vision and they develop a strategy that is centered on creating sustainable value. And they need to build the culture, the winning culture that is needed in order to support this effort. Boards, they need to learn all their stakeholders. They need to know their stakeholders, and they need to ensure that their company is creating and delivering sustainable value for all stakeholders, including shareholders.
Right. Based on your knowledge and academic research, how easy it is for a company to promote corporate governance practices that contribute, as you said, to company sustainability by touching areas of board remuneration, board composition, and stakeholder involvement and decision processes?
Alexandre, I don't think it's a matter of how easy it is, but of how necessary it is. So board compensation, as you mentioned, nowadays is linked with financial results. I guess this needs to change if we want to ensure that the company will be sustainable, will implement all these concepts deriving from sustainability. They need to change this. They need to link the remuneration of the board to other criteria as well, not only financial, ESG criteria. It might not come as a surprise in the future if we see clawbacks regarding this. In other words, setting specific targets to achieve in order for board members to get this remuneration. But if these targets are not achieved, they will have the obligation to give back some of this compensation. So we might see these things coming. We don't know. The board composition, you're right, that we need to start thinking about it. But we have been discussing over the last few years about diversity, gender diversity mainly, but we need to see other issues like the age diversity on the board, the knowledge diversity, the skills. Do they have the skills? Do the members of the board have the skills to understand the concept of sustainability? Do they have the knowledge in order to make appropriate decisions? We need to examine issues like the dependency on board members. How many independent board members we have? So yes, board composition is a major issue, and we need to work closely on that. Definitely, I agree that there is a need to train the boards. We need to change the members of the board in order to understand these concepts. Regarding the last part of your question about stakeholder involvement, I think the answer was given to us a few weeks ago when we all saw 12 football club giants trying to change the name of the game. They tried to introduce a new competition, and they were working for this for, I don't know, 2-3 years. And it all collapsed within less than 10 days. Why? Because of stakeholder denial to this initiative. Their main stakeholder, the fans, their own fans, they disagreed with the idea. They protest. We saw strange things happening. And within less than 10 days, they had to stop this initiative. They had to, some of those clubs were publicly apologized to their own fans because they didn't take into consideration the views of their most important stakeholder, the fans. One of those football clubs, as a result of this issue that happened in the last few weeks, they decided to introduce a new seat in their own board for their funds. So the funds will have a representative in the board in order to participate in the decision-making process. So I think this is the example that shows the power of stakeholders and the need for boards to realize how to involve stakeholders at the decision-making process.
Indeed, great inspiration, and through your example, it is evident that businesses of the next decade, especially until 2030, which is the deadline to achieve the Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals, should start already develop their strategies for this transition towards stakeholder governance, if I may say. Much more on Thursday, 17th of June, 2021, in the second lecture of this year CSR School with Alexandros Antonaras. Indeed, thank you, Alexandre.
Thank you very much.
Let's have our next meeting with another expert professor in a few days' time. Thank you.